Hi, it's me. I'm going to show you how to separate a 5-color spot process job in Illustrator. Stay tuned, coming up. Let's dive right into this tutorial. Right, Apollo? I'm going to go ahead and open up my t-shirt registration template, which, by the way, you guys can purchase. Check out our link down in the description. We have that available for 10 bucks. I'm going to open this up and we are going to start separating our art. I have it copied into my clipboard. I am going to make this 10 inches wide. You can just go up here to the top. I'm going to hit enter. And then I'm going to drag this dude up just a little bit. I'm going to group it real quick. I just hit Command G or Control G for you PC users out there. And I'm going to use my align tool, which if you don't have your align tool, you can go to Window Align. That will bring it up. And there goes Apollo in the background, which is quite appropriate for this piece of art. The next thing I am going to do is I'm going to bring my registration marks and my center line up, and then we're going to dive into the meat and potatoes of what everyone is tuning in for, and that is separating this piece of art out. And this is going to go on a red shirt. I'll show you how the actual print comes out once I'm finished separating it, printing out film and exposing screens, getting everything set up on press. Initially looking at this, looking at the kind of what is a cardinal red and then this black here, generally if the ink color is darker than the color of the shirt, we'll not put any kind of white underbase underneath that, but the yellow and the white we definitely will. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit Command Shift and G just to completely ungroup this piece of art. Once I have my artwork ungrouped, I'm going to go over to my Pathfinder and I am going to hit divide. And now what that will do is just kind of break everything up into its own separate colors. And what I'm going to do is hit A on the keyboard. And I think the first thing I'll do, let's just go ahead and start with our black. I'm just going to zoom in. I just hit Command and the space bar first, and then Command. Space bar gives you your hand so you can drag things around. So I'm going to hit A on the keyboard and I'm going to select the black. And then I'm going to go up here to select and then same and fill color. So that will select all of my black within this artwork. And to zoom out like that, guys, just spacebar, command, and option. Your option keys will allow you to zoom in or zoom out. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Command X. And just keep in mind, anytime I say command, if you're on a PC, and just hit control. What I did is I basically cut out my black. So I'm going to hit Command F just to paste that right in the same place, and Command F is the paste in front. Now I'm going to go over to my Pathfinder window here and hit Unite. And what that will do is make that all one object, so that way I can grab this and move it around. And I'll show you why I'm doing this here in a little bit. So the next thing I'm going to do is select my cardinal red. Because this art does already have some spot colors, I'm just going to delete these for the sake of this demonstration. I'm going to hit yes, and then we'll assign our own spot colors. Before I get too far ahead of myself, let's go ahead, and this is already a black. That's fine. We're going to go over to what I consider a cardinal red. Select, same, and fill color. I'm going to hit Command X to cut that, and then Command F to paste it in front. And then I'm going to go down to my Pathfinder and I'm going to unite that color once again, making it into its own shape, its own group shapes. That way there's not separate objects. We can drag this around. After that, I'm going to go ahead and select my yellow, and we'll do the same thing, same, and then fill color. And we're going to hit unite once more, and again that just makes it its own little just fill color here. And it looks like for whatever reason it grabbed the white, so let's back that up for a second here. Must have hit the wrong keyboard command here. Let's try that one more time. We'll select the yellow, same, fill color, there we go. We'll unite it. Just want to make sure that It is just our yellow, and for whatever reason, it's wanting to grab that white. No big deal. So let's just go ahead and grab that white. We'll get it out of there. Select, same, and then fill color, and then we'll cut it. Command F, and then we'll unite that. Now we have our white separate. We got our yellow. Excuse me, that's a black that is dragged over, but you get the idea. Here's the yellow. So at this point, we have everything completely separated. What I am going to do is I'm going to just select my black, my yellow. I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to grab my cardinal red and then my white as well. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to completely cut everything out of this artwork. I'm going to hit Command A just to make sure there's nothing behind it, and even hit Command Y. There's nothing there. Sometimes what will happen is when you do that divide and you actually divide all these colors up, there can be little pieces in there that will actually fill in places that you don't want filled up. So we're good on that front. I'm gonna hit Command F, paste it right back where it's at. Now we're gonna assign it some spot colors. Let's go ahead and do the yellow first. The yellow is just fine to start with. And now that I'm looking at it, once I'm grabbing my yellow, you can see that there is all this extra artwork there. So we're going to leave that for last, and we'll fix that. And that's kind of what I was talking about. Let's go ahead and do a cardinal red. And I'm going to assign it a spot color, just like so. All you got to do is go up to color type, select spot color, hit OK. Now, how you can tell it's a spot color is it has this little dot here. If spot color wasn't assigned, it was just processed, you'll see that little dot's gone. But we want to make sure it is a spot color. And I'm just double clicking on this little icon. I'm going to hit OK. Our black, we're just letting the black be its own natural black, part of the CMYK black. And then our white, we are going to make what I would call a highlight white or a white top, and we'll make sure it's just CMYK for the heck of it. We might add just a touch of cyan to it, and I'll show you why here in a moment. And we'll select spot color. Let's call this white top. Sometimes when you make these colors, you kind of need to change it up. Like say for instance, if we make this yellow a yellow spot, then it's gonna just kind of contradict what the program thinks is naturally. It has its own yellow CMYK in there. So if you try to make a new color, it will tell you that it won't allow you just to call it yellow. So in this case, let's call it white top. All right, so we gave it just a little bit of cyan. We're gonna hit OK. And we got our little spot color here with our little dot in it. Okay, so we have our yellow to take care of. Just for a moment here, what I am going to do is I'm going to take my red, my cardinal red, my white, and my black as well. Let's just go up to our layers. We'll make a new layer. I'm going to hit Command X, select layer 7, or we can call this, we'll just call it colors for now. Hit Command F, paste it in front. And we're going to turn those off real quick. Then we're going to hit Command Y, which is our outline preview. And you can see there's all kinds of things going on here that we just do not want there. Let's hit Command Y. We're going to kind of toggle this on and off. And you can see where there's just stuff that if we were to, say for instance, let's just go ahead and we'll hit Command Y again to get back to our normal preview. We select this yellow. Let's just pull it aside. And we assign this a color because at the moment it's got a little bit of a question mark. So let's just say we made it that red. You can see that we filled all this stuff in that we don't necessarily want. So I'm going to hit Command Z just to undo and turn my colors off. Let's see if we can just grab this yellow without the rest of that junk in there. So I'm going to select the yellow again, select same fill color, and let's see if it doesn't grab everything else that was within this piece of art that's not part of the yellow. I'm gonna hit Command O just to, or 0, just to kind of get the overall view, and that I accidentally hit something, so that way I deselected it, but let's do the same thing, fill color. Okay, so now we have just our yellow selected finally. We're gonna hit Command X, and then I'm gonna hit Command A. Now we have the rest of that we don't need, and we can finally get rid of it. I'm gonna hit Command F to paste it in front, and then we're gonna go down to our Pathfinder, and we're just going to unite that. So that way we have one shape. Now we can finally go ahead, and if you see here, there's no question mark. We can go ahead and hit our new swatch, and we'll call this yellow spot. And just for demonstration's sake, I'll just keep it yellow and hit OK. And you see what it says, the name cannot be used for a spot color because it's reserved for processed plates. So we're going to hit OK. So we'll call it yellow spot. Or you can call it whatever you want, golden yellow. It actually is kind of a golden yellow, so let's just call it golden yellow, because that's what we'll end up using on the press anyways. And we want to make sure we want to make sure that it's selected as spot color. We're going to hit OK. So there we go. We have that all. We're not completely finished, but we finally are getting to a point towards where we can now make our white underbase. And with our white underbase, I'm just going to take my yellow, again with our black and our cardinal red, because it is darker than the actual color of the shirt. We really just will need to make the underbase for the yellow and then the white. So I'm going to select those two. And I'll tell you what, let's do this. I'm gonna hit Command A, so that way I'll select all of them. Select my art layer, Command F, just to paste it in place. And then let's drag down the colors layer, and we'll just make this our white base layer. You can even do this all in the same layer as long as you move the white base behind everything. This just kind of makes it a little easier if you guys are new to separating your own artwork. So I'm going to hit Command A. I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to turn off my art layer, and then go down to my white base layer, Command F, so that way we're pasting it in the same place. And I'm going to get rid of the colors I don't need to back up with the white base. So I'm going to delete this black, and then I'm going to delete the cardinal red. So these are the two colors we're left with that we need to do a white base with. The first thing I'm going to do, the easiest thing, is my white, because I can practically just take this white and we're going to make a new spot color immediately is what we're going to do. And we'll just call this white base, or you can call it just base if you want to. I'm going to give it just a little bit more cyan, and I'll show you why here in a moment. Make sure it is color type is spot color. We're going to hit OK. And you can see it's a little bit darker of a blue. And as I mentioned, I'm going to show you guys why here in a moment. Now, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this yellow. We're going to essentially just assign it that same white base here. Now, here's where the real magic is going to start happening. I'm going to go up to my layers, turn on my art layer. I'll just turn off my white base for a moment. At this point, I do just want to mention that if you guys do not have Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator, use our link down in the description, so that way you can get a subscription to it. It's no different than if you were to go over to Adobe Illustrator or adobe.com and purchase it yourself. Essentially, this will kick a little bit of a commission our way, so that way we can continue to make awesome tutorial videos such as these for you. Now moving on, I turn my white base off. I'm going to want to put a little bit of a spread on this yellow, so that way when you're on press and you have your white, and you have to have perfect registration if you're going to try and not put any kind of spread or choke on your base. In this case, I'm going to do a little bit of a spread on the yellow, so that way we're not losing any of these small details here. And we're just going to put a little bit of a stroke on the yellow, just enough to kind of spread it out. And we got a little bit of wiggle room with our registration, because we all know that screen printing machines, presses, whatever you want to call them, aren't exactly a perfect thing. We're going to take this yellow and then we're going to add an outline to it. Right here in my swatch palette, I'm going to just put a stroke on it. And I think this might be just a touch too much of a stroke for me personally. You can reduce it back just a little bit. I'm going to go with 0.5, although if your press is a little loose and you're having a hard time registering things, I would suggest going with a 1 point, but I'm going to go with 5 point because I feel pretty comfortable with my registration and how the press holds registration. The next thing we are going to do is with our white top here and then our yellow, we're going to go over to our attributes, and if that's not showing up, just go to Window and then Attributes and pull that up. We're going to click on Overprint Fill and Overprint Stroke, and essentially what Overprint is with Adobe Illustrator is it allows you to have a white base color such as this and then have the colors directly sitting on top of that, and it will print out those pieces of film rather than completely knocking it out. So if you didn't have overprint selected, your white base would not print where the yellow and the white is. Now the next thing we can do just to kind of verify that everything's cool is we're going to go over to our separations preview palette here, or window. Same thing, window, separations preview. You can click overprint preview. And now if we zoom in on our yellow, you can see that little bit of spread that we do have going on. Within our attributes, we don't have overprint selected. It's just going to knock that yellow out rather than the black overprinting on top of that yellow. So those will have to be butted up pretty nicely, and you're not going to get any kind of blurring with those edges. So the black's going to be nice and crisp right up next to that yellow. And how we would end up printing this is we may do the black just right after our white base, but you will see once we get on press how this ends up working out. Or you can see just exactly how we've got a little bit of a spread here. We got our overprint going on, and then with our white, we're pretty much just kind of printing that white right on top of the white, because we don't really need to choke it back any. If you're having a little bit of an issue with doing two separate whites, because that's how we prefer to do things, even if it's just a one color thing, a lot of the times we'll have a white underbase and then a white top. And sometimes with your white top, what you can do is just put a little bit of a white stroke on it, and then just really make that a pretty fine white stroke, and it'll give you a little bit more wiggle room. But in this case, I'm not too worried about it, so we're just going to leave it just as it is here. And that is pretty much it, aside from we're just going to hit Command P and we're going to send it to our Epson 1430. One of the things you do want to keep an eye out for is we have 1319 selected going to our AccuRip to our Epson 1430, and then in our output you definitely want to make sure that separations are selected. And when you go to print your separations, that the only thing that is going to print are the spot colors that you have assigned. In this case, we have 5 colors. We have our process black, our cardinal red, our golden yellow, our white base, and our white top. And we'll end up printing this with our white base, more than likely our black, then our cardinal red, our yellow, and then our white top. We'll see once we get everything all set up. So at this point, we are ready to go ahead and print our film. And just as a real quick tip, if you do have some colors sitting here in the process, cyan, magenta, or yellow, say for instance, I'm just going to do an example, and let's make this color here. We'll just make a new color, and we'll make sure there's no black in there, and we have some other colors going on. We'll make sure that we got some of those CMYK colors going on. Now if we go to our overprint preview, if we turn CMYK off, looks like I probably still have, okay, so that, let me switch that out, get rid of this actual spot color that I had assigned to it. Okay, so now back to the example, I turn on my CMYK. You can see that here's my color that I just created, and turn on your overprint preview. You can turn off all your spot colors, and it will kind of show you where you have something that doesn't have a spot color sign. As I gradually turn all these things off, you see everything starting to disappear, and we still see the cyan and magenta. Even if I turn the cyan off, my cyan's gone, my magenta's gone, and my yellow. So this will actually allow you to go back and assign this some sort of spot color, and you can just go up to your swatches, and let's say this needed to be black. We can just hit black. You have to excuse me that it's on the stroke, but let me click my fill. We hit black, and now it disappeared because we have our black turned off. I turn my black on, there it is right there. The film I'm using for this project is a pretty inexpensive film. It's about 50 cents each. I'll leave a link down in the description where you guys can find this. We're going to burn these screens, set everything up on press, and then show you how this all comes out. The screens that we're using for this job are 230 mesh screens for the colors, and then that's even including the white top. For the underbase, we're going to use a 195 mesh, just like so. And the emulsion we're using for the 230 mesh is a TZ emulsion, and for the white base, we're using Ulano orange. And I'll leave a link down in the blah, blah, and I'll leave a link down in the I'll leave a link down in the description where you can find the emulsion that we are using. All right, here we are on press. It's hot outside. We are on what is probably I know it's well over 200 shirts. I'll show you. So here are the shirts that we are running off. Here's another case down here ready to go. But what I'm going to show you is how well this separation method works. I'm going to show you what it looks like on press. Alright, so here's how the print is looking. Looking really good. We got our white base going down. Flattening screen. Then we are doing our cardinal red. Here is our yellow. We are flashing after the yellow just to keep the yellow nice and sharp. Then we're doing our black and our white right after the black. Go ahead and hit the foot pedal. So here is a close-up of how the print is looking. Our white is spot on along with our black registration. Those two are being printed wet on wet, and the edges are nice and crisp. You can kind of see our spread a little bit on the yellow. However, what you mainly see is what is being backed up by the white base, and it's looking pretty awesome. Here's another close-up off of the press. You can see just how smooth that white base is using that flattening screen, how tight the registration is. There's not a whole lot of blurring going on where we're printing our colors wet on wet with the white. With our cardinal, we are overprinting the yellow on top of that, but you can still see the cardinal through it. Again, here you can see just that little bit of spread right there. and that just kind of helps trap everything, so that way you don't have to, you got a little bit of wiggle room when it comes to your registration, and also for any kind of tolerances on your press where it might shift from palette to palette. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I hope this was educational, helpful for you guys. I hope it kind of helps you along the way in separating your artwork. Be sure to check out our next video coming up, how to separate a job in Adobe Photoshop, so that way you can get your screen print on, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.